Welcome along to Man in the Mirror. It's Hayden Williams here, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Jun Lim, who is the creative director of Born to Stand Out, and he joins me from. Are you in Seoul, Jun?
I
Are
am
you in
in
the city?
Seoul. Yes, that's
So it's
right.
your evening. You've kindly. I guess. Are you home or have you stayed in the office? Where do we
Oh,
find
this is
you?
my little office.
Oh, great. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for sticking around. What time is it in
It's
Seoul?
5 p.m. I believe
5
it's
p.m.
9 a.m. your time.
9 a.m. your time. I don't know why we find time differences so fascinating, but
It
there we go.
is.
It's always just weird when people are, I don't know, different energies, isn't there, at different times of the day. It's kind of,
Yeah.
we're just starting here and you're winding down. But thank you so much for making time to chat to me on Man in the
Thank you.
Mirror. We met, I think it was a couple of months ago now. You at
Yes, 2 months
Jovoy in
ago.
London. Yeah, maybe not even that long. Maybe I'm overstating it. But you introduced Born to Stand Out to some of the media at the Jovoy store in London, and it was such a privilege to hear directly from you about the brand. And it's a brand that I've been seeing a lot online, and it feels like it's making a real splash. But I'd love to know, first of all, maybe for people who are unfamiliar with Born to Stand Out, it seems to have quite a unique position and a real statement of intent and a real manifesto. So how would you describe the brand and what you're trying to do to people who don't know it?
So, for someone who is unfamiliar with Born to Stand Outs, I would say we're not your typical niche or luxury perfume brand. Like, we are rebels in the fragrance world, and our manifesto is all about shaking up the status quo.
Mm,
I want to reject the overly polished, overly commercialized versions of luxury and niche, and to embrace and enjoy something raw, edgy, fun. I like to
yeah.
say fun and dirty, and yeah,
Fun and dirty or flirty? Dirty.
both could be.
um,
Both
and
could
I
be
guess
great.
that extends to, people, if you might see it on shelf, it has a very iconic and quite an unusual design aesthetic. But your manifesto extends to, obviously, to what's inside too. There's quite a DNA to the brand. I think when I experienced the fragrances, there was
Yeah,
loads of beautiful. It did feel sexy. It did feel it was about skin and about eating and about being sensual. Because a lot of
exactly.
there's a lot of dirty rice and drunk saffron and fig porn. Lots of really evocative words. So I suppose the thread runs through both the aesthetic and the juice inside. Is that
From A
right?
to Z, A to Z.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's so just to give you a brief info about the fragrances, as you
Mm.
said, I think. Do you know our Nanotopia fragrance, the one with the
Is that
banana
the
bread?
banana?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So we have like banana fragrance. I like to use overdose of animalic notes, which is quite unusual
Yeah.
in modern perfumery. They're very personal to me, and they're a way for me of not caring about the status quo and pushing boundaries. I like to overdose the animalic notes, overdose of gourmands, and overdose of some molecular notes, which are oftentimes too expensive for most brands to
Mm.
use. So it's my attempt to break away from the, like I said, overly commercialized niche perfume world and bring something, truly unique and daring.
Yeah. Something fresh. And what were you up to, Jim, before fragrance? How did it come about that you came into this world?
So before starting Born to Stand Out, I was in the finance world. I
Were
was
you?
just chasing spreadsheets and numbers.
Quite a
But
different kind of job.
my field of expertise was cosmetics industry, working for the
Right.
investment banks. So I
Right.
knew the industry bits, ups and downs, and the dynamics. But at the same time, I've been a big perfume collector for the past 21 years,
Right.
from the early 2000s, since the early days of niche perfume, I would say.
And can you remember
And
what were some of the early fragrances that you
my
loved that
first
got you into it?
discoveries were back then. My first perfume was Versace Blue Jeans.
Oh yeah.
which is like the teenage boy perfume.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
And then Burberry Weekends, and there was Abercrombie Fears. But then I was, I kind of graduated out of that level, and I thought, when I discovered during the forum days, I don't remember if it was Parfumo or Base Notes. I discovered Frederic Mel. I discovered Serge Luton, and I was like,
Oh yeah,
I got into him in the early 2000s.
and that's a real gateway, in, isn't it? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you head down
Those
a
are the
rabbit hole
gateway
into
brands.
all those. Totally,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah.
And
But
was there kind of was there a particular moment that obviously you had a certain career path, and even though it was adjacent, I suppose, because you were doing beauty kind of work, was there a certain moment where you said, you know what, screw this, I want to do my own thing, or did that become a more gradual realization?
It was as I was fired from my last job.
Really?
I had the eureka moments.
Yeah, as you were handed your letter.
Yeah, where I realized I wasn't living in alignment with my love for creativity, arts, perfume, and all things bold. And being fired was my turning point.
If you don't mind me asking, was that just the nature of the particular job, or yeah, what was it that sort of do, do you think the company was just sort of scaling back, or
I'm
not
just
that
too
you've done
bold.
anything particular? Were you really? Did you
Yeah,
not kind of
yeah,
fit in?
exactly. That's the right word, I would say. I
Really?
mean, we live in a strict hierarchy, of course, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of bureaucracy as well in such large investment banks. And I was not the perfect fit, let's just say.
I asked you that question, and I realised that it's extremely personal. It could have been for any number of reasons that you actually got laid off, and I got shit. What have I asked? But I guess
No
it's
worries.
probably a nice segue, because it sounds
Yeah,
like, as you've alluded to anyway, you were much more suited to running your own thing, and I
yeah,
imagine now having the freedom to forge your own path, and to sort of write your future yourself, that must be hugely rewarding, and it seems like it's going fantastically well with Born to Stand
yeah,
Out.
yeah. I feel great waking up every day, and I'm very thankful that I can serve for this great, beautiful industry.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm
you
very
can't get
happy.
fired.
Exactly. No one can fire me.
And I suppose, I think for a lot of listeners, we've all been used to the big, the Eurocentric brands, I suppose.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
was for a long time so much focus on France and Italy, and probably in a smaller way Britain, and it's really interesting now to see the emergence of brands from different continents, and particularly from Southeast Asia. And I suppose people might know Korea or South Korea as a country, associated with skincare, and there's a lot of brands in that space, but fragrance may be slightly less so. So is that part of the rebellion, and that you're doing something different? I mean, how does it fit in Korea? Was it received warmly as a brand?
not really.
No,
In the beginning.
people not get
Well,
it.
in my country, there was a big initial resistance. We made a big scene and big noise out of it, out of our entry,
Yeah,
because the fragrance was edgy. It was in a very symbolic, like our flagship store is located in a very symbolic district in front of the largest private museum owned by the Samsung Group. And it's
right.
known as the holy grail of the, arts in Korea. And we come up with very edgy communication that may be seen vulgar to some conservative Korean people.
Mm,
Yeah, that was the beginning, but more we showed our contemporary artistic approach. The more people were, I think, drawn onto the vision. I think now it's like we've unlocked this hidden desire for something different,
mm,
and our flagship store has become one of the hot spots in the city. But
really.
still, the fragrance is, let's just say, not perfectly suitable for Korean public, because they prefer light, easy, overly commercialized, meaning It could be little aldehydic, little floral or light floral, light woody touches, very
Mm,
easygoing fragrances that could be a crowd pleaser. Not my cup of tea fragrances, and like we are the complete opposite, but we're not here to please the crowd. For me, I only care about the two people out of the 100 people in the room. So
yeah.
it's okay.
And you can make a great, I mean, it's proven so many times anyway, but if you
Yeah.
find your tribe and you find your niche, there's money to be made there anyway. There's a business
Yeah.
there, isn't there? You don't have to,
Yeah.
probably not with fragrance. It seems if you try to head for the mass and something
Yeah.
that pleases everyone, that's not always the best place, is it? It just ends up
Well,
being a bit
fortunately,
generic.
yeah, fortunately, we did make good numbers in terms of external growth, but our bottom line is still terrible. We're not profitable yet, but
Yeah,
hopefully in the coming years. But
one day.
thankfully, we've only launched 2 years ago, and we've seen a
Is it
phenomenal
that
growth.
recently, Jun? Wow.
Exactly, 2.5 years ago.
You have a lot
We
of
only,
fragrances in the collection already, don't
we
you?
have about 30 that we launched so far. We discontinued a lot, but more than 20 outstanding in permanent collection.
I mean, that's hitting the ground
That's a
running,
lot
isn't
of
it?
launch.
Yeah. Wow, wow. And when we met, you mentioned it already. It feels like the fragrances are very personal, and you were very clear that they come from ideas you have, dreams you have. I mean, is that the case with all of them? That they're quite autobiographical?
Yes, in a way, they come from very random incidents or very strong memory of mine in the past, which is often associated with the past loved ones.
Mm,
And that means, the first, I won't say, I won't dig in too far, but
no.
yeah, most of them are very personal stories, as you see
Yeah.
with the names like Drunk Lovers and,
Yeah.
Dirty Rice,
Yeah.
Naked Laundry. These are all
It's
the
fairly obvious
inspirations that
what they're
I've,
about.
yes.
Yeah.
Or oftentimes it's kind of random incidents. Just a sneak peek of the next releases in 2025. It's a random incident of me just walking behind this man who happened to just spit out a fresh chewing gum that was so pink, and I was like, I had to take that picture, and it was stuck on a tar. So I took a picture of this bubble gum stuck on a tar, and I sent it to all my perfumers, and I said, I'm so curious what this smells like. So I always try to make this really, really personal because I believe
Yeah.
that's where the creativity comes from.
Yeah. So he
Yeah.
just spat it out, and
Yeah.
this really pink gum.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
like overly pink. And I was like, oh my God, that's looks delicious and weird and very dirty, which is
This is
perfectly fitting.
perfect. This is
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
it's
like
Jun
another,
is
it's that's how we work.
yeah. And I suppose but there's a huge amount of creativity in, I always think, in being open to those experiences and being able to receive that stuff in. It's like there's a misconception that, well, it's literally everything that sort of happens in your life. It isn't that. It's being the sort of creative person that can take experiences and channel them into something tangible and
Yeah.
real. I think
Yeah.
that's where the skill is,
Exactly.
and I love
Exactly.
that.
I mean, that's how you become creative,
Yeah, yeah,
not
and yeah,
overlook
allowing
anything
yourself
ordinary.
to take it in. Yeah, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. These things that are mundane and everyday, and there's magic in that, I think, isn't there?
Hmm.
Um,
Exactly.
where are is South Korea still? Is it the biggest market for you, or is it like
It is
UK or
one of the
States? Or
larger markets. We have a lot. Well, we have, of course, Europe is the biggest for us,
mm,
which accounts for about half of our sales.
right,
And across this year, the usual big markets such as Italy, Germany, and also the big chunk of Balkan countries are also big markets
right,
for us. All the Eastern
yeah.
European
There's some great
countries.
stores
So,
there, isn't there?
oh
There's
yeah,
some really
they're
nice
beautiful.
independent stores in that
Yeah,
part of the
yeah.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people may not have the fanciest perception, but it's a beautiful country, and
Yeah.
the stores are beautiful, and people are lovely.
Yeah.
We are fairly stable and growing at a similar pace across the board, across North America, Central America, Western Europe, Eastern Europe. Relatively we're slow in Asia. Well,
Mm.
our biggest strength is Korea, obviously, because we have a beautiful flagship store. But as for other East Asian countries, we're relatively weak compared to European countries. I think our fragrances are more well received in or more suitable for the Europeans than
Mm.
the Asians.
Well, I know. Yeah, when we met you and we were hearing more about the different fragrance names, and you explained so beautifully, some of the concepts. It certainly, I think, to our British sensibilities, that idea of that punk aesthetic and that rebellion, it sits really nicely. I think
Yeah, yeah,
we can get on board with this idea of screw the
yeah.
establishment or do
Mm,
something a
mm.
bit more rebellious. That definitely works. And I guess, Jun, you have to, as the creative director and founder of the brand, that necessitates a lot of traveling around and
Yeah.
promotion and getting to meet customers and meet retailers. So is that something you embrace? Are you happy to do that and get around
Oh
and see
yeah, it's the
everyone?
best part of my job.
Really?
I travel 9 to 10 months out of 12 months, so
Wow.
I travel always,
Yeah.
literally, and I take a short break in between in Korea just to see my family
Yeah.
for a week or two, and then I go on about a month to 2 month vacation. Oh no, sorry,
Goodness.
1 to 2 month
Of traveling
work
work.
trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I'm glad we got you in one place in the
yeah,
office in
yeah,
Seoul. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It's
Well, look, we're
perfect.
going to return and talk a little bit more about Born to Stand Out in a second. But with Man in the Mirror, I like to take a nosy around the bathroom cabinet and find out about some of the products that the guest uses in their morning and evening routine. And I
Hmm.
wonder with you, June, the this idea we have of Korean men with this vast array of products, and
Yeah.
it's an amazing developed market for men's skincare and grooming
Yeah.
and well-being. How about you? What does your routine look like?
Let's just say I like to keep my regime very low key
Yeah.
and effective. My skincare routine, I put on loads of, don't be surprised, Vaseline.
Do you?
And also,
I am surprised.
do you know, have you tried the baby SOS cream or Dexpantanol?
No.
This is a cream that you use on the baby rash,
Mm.
type of rash. I have
Oh,
a little
okay.
baby,
Yeah.
and I
Right.
mix the Vaseline and the baby SOS cream, or Dexpantanol, I think it's what it's called,
Okay.
which is like a rash ointment. So if you mix those two together, it gives you beautiful hydration and glow. Like
And
that,
you'll
it's on
apply that to
point.
the face.
Yeah.
Um, Morning, evening, both.
Yeah, yeah. Before I go to bed and morning as I wash my face and take a
Well,
shower.
it's working for you. That
Yeah,
beautiful clear skin and
yeah.
no
I
lines on
have
it
a
is.
very clear skin. I would not recommend it for everybody because I recommend it to my friends, and the next day they got acne and all that stuff. So
So what? Why had someone recommended it to you? How did you end up with this combo?
I like to just experiment with what my wife has on her drawer.
Okay. Yeah.
And on Vaseline, like she would put on Vaseline for like her cracked skins, and I
Yeah.
was like, I have a dry skin. I was like, why not? And it worked perfectly, and it was the most hydrating thing I've ever seen. I was like,
Oh.
why hasn't anybody told me about this?
And not expensive, right? All those baby
Exactly,
products are much cheaper
exactly.
than super expensive
Yeah,
serums
yep,
and things.
yep, exactly. And the baby SOS cream is so effective, and it's like it gives you the perfect glow.
Yeah.
So
There you
I know
go.
it's probably the weirdest answer that you may have seen,
June, I love it. I love it. And
but that's who I am.
cool. Yeah. Just doing things a little bit differently. And anything in? What about hair? Do you have a certain product that you like to use in your hair, or do you keep it natural?
Hair. I don't typically use hair styling products, exception of maybe like a gel sometimes or hair
Mm.
spray just in the front. Like on shampoo, I use. Do you know this brand called Alpecin? By it's
Yes,
German
I
shampoo
do.
brand
I do.
Alpecin.
Yeah,
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 it's like a very cooling men's shampoo.
yeah. I know
It
that one.
helps you wake up. So
There you go. That's
yeah,
good.
that's why I use it. Any other? I mean, I have a very special fragrance routine, but
Tell me
other
about
than that,
fragrance, because yeah, I guess having your own brand, do you confine yourself to Born to Stand Out fragrances, or do you like to try the rival brands? How do you approach it?
well, though I would love to try rival brands, and I buy a lot, and just to
Mm.
show support, and because I
And
think
you're a
I'm very
fragrance
friendly.
fan, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I made good friends with the owners of the other brands, and
yeah.
we'd like to exchange gifts, but I don't have time and actually skin to
There's not enough
apply.
skin.
I usually like have 10 fragrances that I apply throughout the day, from my
10.
hand, my forearm, my
Mm,
arm, neck, my t-shirt, outer
mm.
jackets. Like
You'll run out
I'm
of
always,
space. Yeah.
yes, I'm literally a walking perfume bomb. And but the reason why I put so many is because these are all the potential releases for next
Right.
year or the year after. Uh, m- our creation process is, I'm the only one that gets to direct the fragrance creation. So my skin is the only testing bed
Right.
for creation process.
So you don't put it out to sample panels or everything. It's all
No, 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 no. I
you
would
are
never
the
do panel
one and
tests.
only.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't care about other people's. Even our internal staffs. I mean, they would love to smell it, but I don't listen to their feedback. I said, don't give me feedback. I don't care.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
what I do.
it's truly a singular vision, isn't it? Which is
It is.
again a bold approach when
Yeah,
there's so much money at stake, but there's a real confidence to say, no, this is my vision for the brand, and
exactly. I want to
you
keep it
know,
consistent.
yeah, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a very costly mistake, but well, it's been working.
Yeah, oh, it absolutely is, and I think it's a brand that definitely seems to be talked about a lot on some of the forums and
Yeah.
a lot on online. And do you find with your bestsellers, are there regional variations between different countries as to which the
Um.
bestsellers are?
Yeah. Well, Koreans are still far from the adventurous side of
Mm,
perfume. So let's just say our easiest fragrance called Dirty Rice. I think it's just the
yeah,
most soothing,
yeah,
let's just say the least edgy fragrance that we have. Well, it's got a lot of overdose of animalic as well, but still, I think it's the easiest relatively.
yeah.
And that and Mud and Fig Porn, these are the best sellers.
Mm,
But in European market, it's completely different.
right.
It's Sugar Addicts
Oh,
and
is it?
Drunk Lovers. Yeah, Drunk
Yeah,
Lovers and now Dirty Heaven. These three are the best sellers.
right.
Yeah. So
And
people
this
like,
this
oh,
sort of pace of releases, you mentioned in a couple of years releasing up to 30, and now there's maybe 20 at least consistently in the range.
yeah.
And you already talked about some that you're going to be trialing and releasing next year.
Yeah.
Is there anything you might be able to share? Is there a constant
Um,
release plan of
yeah.
new things? I think you mentioned
Yeah.
X. Do you say X-Trays
Yeah.
coming at some point as well?
So we are planning on increasing the number of permanent lineup in EDP.
Are you?
Yeah, to about 30 in the next 2 to 3 years. We're at 20, so we will
Mm,
have at least 2 to 3 or up to four, in considering the discontinuation
mm,
per year. So maybe once a quarter. And then we have X-Ray
mm.
that we're releasing
That's really exciting.
for some in first half next year and second half next year at concentration ranging 50 to 60%. So we're trying to really
Wow.
push the boundaries of what X-ray really
Yeah.
means. because our EDPs already contains about 30 to 40%. I don't enjoy the term extray because I feel like I'm over promising as a consumer, and I get often disappointed. So I made my EDPs, or I just called it EDP, despite having the concentration of 30 to 40%, because I feel like it's better to always under promise and over deliver than the other way around, which may lead to customers losing some faith in the brand.
Yeah. And I suppose the nature of the style of fragrances that you make, they lend themselves to this boldness and a big percentage of fragrance oil that you want them to be bold and expressive, don't you? It feels like for it to project and for it to feel sexy.
Exactly.
They are
very
quite
expressive.
They are quite punchy, aren't they?
Yeah. That's intentional.
I'm sure. And will there be? I don't know if there is already, Jun. Forgive me, but are you planning other extensions into home fragrance and body care and that kind of stuff?
In Korea, we have some range of home care fragrances called fragrance tag in a form of paper.
Oh, right.
In the shape of middle finger.
Love it.
And we also have a body product, which we are releasing next month. So stay tuned.
And is that,
on that.
like a lotion or a...
Yeah, lotion and body wash.
Creams.
That's going to be, but another sneak peek for the listeners is we're coming out with body sprays for next year's. Yeah, it's just some entry products. And also, okay, we have so many launches that I'm kind of forgetting. Incense, but which is kind of a very new ritual for Western society, but something that we're very familiar with. And, I've been growing up with incense ever since I was a kid. And, I would love to show the world what Korean incense is about, because we have our own.
And is it a different, it's a different way, is it?
Yeah, it's a different way. Like, it's for interior. You know how the West Asian style of incense, which is what you typically see, are for exterior. But I think it's often misperceived and people smell it inside. But our incense is totally for inside use, and it's very safe.
I look forward to hearing more about that. And the name of the podcast is Man in the Mirror, and I'm always really interested in how the guest perceives their own self-image. So I wonder when you're getting ready, Jun, in the morning, and you take a glimpse in the mirror, how do you feel about your own appearance and what looks back at you?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Sorry.
I think we all have the moments of looking in the mirror, right? And, thinking, could I change this? Could I change that? But reality is I'm very happy with who I am and how I look, I think it's more like I've kind of let things go as I aged. I'm in my mid-30s, but of course, in my 20s, I was more anxious about how I appeared. But I think now I kind of let it go, and I'm very happy with who I am and how I look. And being in this beauty industry does make you conscious of appearances sometimes. But
that's what I was wondering. I think being in the business more, you're in the public eye in terms of going to events and presenting and meeting the media. You have to be aware of it, don't you? I suppose.
Exactly. But at the same time, it's important to stay who you are and stay authentic. And the whole ethos of Born to Stand Out is about embracing the unconventional. And I think that starts with how you see yourself.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's more fun to play with different self-expressions and to get bogged down by, the perception of perfection.
Yes. Yeah. And the sort of standardized version of what beauty, attractive is or anything. It makes a lot of sense. So you wouldn't be someone, or might you be someone that at any point would consider treatments or tweakments or surgery? How do you feel about that? Do you let yourself grow old?
We are the kingdom of treatments. We are known for the cheapest treatment in the world. I mean, really? I don't mind my wife doing it, and it's the woman's thing. But I mean, for me, I would rather use that time spraying and trying different perfume.
Me too. Yeah, I think I might get old and liney, but I'll smell good, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll all be smelly old men.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that. And Jim, the final thing I like to ask the guest is just what makes you happy and brings you joy, perhaps outside of
Yeah.
work.
Well, the general idea of creating something that the world has not seen
Hmm.
makes me happy, whether it's formulating a new scent or brainstorming craziest idea or whatever it is. Creating the idea of creation is what really makes me happy. But honestly, you know, I'm a dad of a little one, and spending
How
time.
old's your child?
He's now 3, so
Wow.
he does need a lot of time to be spent with him, and spending
Yeah.
time with my little one. His name's
Yeah, of
Ian.
course.
I think that kind of brings me the biggest joy, and there's something magical about seeing the world through the eyes of a child, right? And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
everything is new, exciting, and full of potential. And this kind of curiosity fuels my personal life and also my professional life. So that kind of is the biggest driving force of my daily life.
That's really interesting that you're using it as a creative inspiration as well, just to see through that wonderment through through
Yeah.
the child's eyes. It's probably it's a great thing for a creative, isn't it? Just to look at
Exactly.
things
Exactly.
in a new way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the perception. That's a way of thinking that I want to possess as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jun, thank you so much. And I speak for everyone. I think we're so glad that you moved away from the spreadsheets and into the world of fragrance. And
Thank
I'm
you.
so thrilled how well things are going for Born to Stand Out. And I will mention the products and where people can find it, both here in
Thank
the
you for the
UK and
support.
internationally. My pleasure. And it was so lovely. Thank you for sticking around and spending some time with me in your evening in Seoul. And I hope to see you again in person very soon.
We will. Thank you
Jun,
so
thank you
much.
very much. You take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.